Have you ever wondered why really, really smart people sometimes make disastrously bad decisions? Well, there's a declassified CIA manual called Psychology of Intelligence Analysis that dives deep into this exact problem. It was written by a veteran analyst, Richard J. Heuer Jr., who basically spent his career figuring out why we all get things wrong and, more importantly, what we can do about it. So let's just start with the core idea behind all of Heuer's work. It's a pretty wild question. What if the biggest, most dangerous threat to making a good call isn't that you don't have enough information or that someone is trying to trick you, but that it's actually your own brain? Heuer argues that the root of the problem is baked right into our own mental hardware. You see, the world is insanely complex, right? So to cope, our brains create these little shortcuts. He calls them mindsets or mental models. And they are both our greatest superpower and, you guessed it, our most critical vulnerability. So what is a mindset really? The best way to think about it is like a lens. It's the lens you see the world through, shaped by everything you've ever learned or experienced. Now, having this lens isn't optional. It's how we function. Without it, we'd be completely overwhelmed. The danger, though, is that this lens can bend and distort what we see, creating huge blind spots we don't even know we're there. And this quote from Heuer himself just nails that central conflict. He's saying, look, we have to rely on these mental models. There's no way around it. They're useful, they're necessary, but they are also fundamentally hazardous because they're always filtering reality for us. You know that classic optical illusion, right? The one where you can see either a young woman looking away or an old woman in profile? Whichever one you saw first, your brain probably locked right onto it. Now, think about how it felt to try and find the other one. You feel that little moment of resistance? That's your brain having to physically rewire the data to see a new pattern. And that little experience demonstrates Heuer's key principle perfectly. Our brains are incredibly fast at forming an initial picture, at seeing that first woman. But once that picture is formed, man, they're stubborn about changing it. We just don't like to take all the pieces apart and see if they can be put together in a completely different way. Okay, so this isn't just some fun brain teaser. In the real world, especially in high-stakes situations like intelligence work, that resistance to changing your mind can be catastrophic. And this is where we get to the real danger of overconfidence. So because our mindsets are so hard to change, they start acting like a bouncer for new information. If a piece of data doesn't fit our pre-existing theory, we might just discount it, or we'll twist an ambiguous signal to make it fit. Or worse, we'll just flat out ignore stuff that contradicts what we already believe. These are the critical signals that get lost in all the noise, and it's how huge intelligence failures happen. Now, your first instinct might be, okay, the solution is just to get more information, right? Well, actually, no. Heuer calls this the information trap. We all believe that more data will lead to a better decision. But the shocking reality, which has been shown in experiments, is that more data often just makes us way more confident in our beliefs without actually making us any more accurate. Check this out. It's from a pretty famous experiment with expert horse racing handicappers. Look at the first two bars. Their accuracy at picking winners was stuck at 17%, whether they had 5 pieces of information or 40. It didn't budge. But their confidence, whoa. With all that extra data, it more than doubled to 35%. They weren't getting any better, just a whole lot more sure of themselves. And that brings us to the absolute core lesson here. The real problem isn't a lack of data. It's the lack of a good mental model to make sense of that data. Just piling on more information when your initial theory is flawed only cements you deeper into being wrong. So, if our own brains are working against us and more information can actually make things worse, what are we supposed to do? Well, Heuer says the answer is to start thinking about our thinking. We need to get self-conscious about our own reasoning and use structured tools to fight back against our natural biases. This quote right here is the heart of his solution. It's a call to make a fundamental shift. Stop focusing only on what you think the answer is and start rigorously examining how you got to that answer in the first place. The process, it turns out, is way more important than the product. So how do you actually do that? Well, one of the simplest techniques is to just externalize the problem. In other words, get it out of your messy head and onto paper. Heuer uses this super simple example of buying a car. Instead of trying to juggle a million pros and cons in your mind, you break it down. You list the things that matter, you decide how much they matter, and you score your options. It's simple, but this act forces your reasoning out into the open where you can actually see it. And that simple idea leads us to Heuer's signature technique, a really powerful framework designed to short-circuit our cognitive biases. It's called analysis of competing hypotheses, or ACH for short. All right, here's the quick and dirty on how it works. First, you brainstorm every possible theory, not just the one you think is right. Then, you list out all the relevant evidence. But now, here comes the magic. Step 4 is the real game changer, and it goes against every natural instinct you have. Your goal is to try to disprove your hypotheses. You're not looking for facts that support your ideas. You're actively hunting for evidence that kills them. The best theory left standing isn't the one with the most proof for it, but the one with the least evidence against it. This is a massive shift in thinking. Our normal, intuitive approach, what psychologists call confirmation bias, is to come up with a story we like and then look for evidence that proves we're right. ACRCH forces us to do the exact opposite. It flips the whole process on its head. It makes us play devil's advocate against our own ideas, trying to find the least wrong answer by killing off all the other ones. So the big question is, how do we take these powerful techniques, honed by spies, and actually apply them in our own lives? Well, it all starts with one simple but difficult commitment. You have to start questioning everything you think you know. Here's a little checklist you can use. First, identify your linchpin assumptions. Think of these as the Jenga blocks at the very bottom of your argument. If one is wrong, the whole thing comes crashing down. Next, go find people who disagree with you. Actively seek them out. And try to avoid mirror imaging, which is the super common trap of assuming everyone else thinks just like you. And finally, when something surprises you, pay attention. Don't just explain it away. A surprise is often a bright red flag that your mental model of the world is wrong and needs an update. I absolutely love this quote from the manual because the metaphor is just so perfect. Those mental shortcuts that help us think fast, over time, they become mental ruts. They create a well-worn path that's easy to go down again and again, but it makes it incredibly hard to break free and see the world from a different vantage point. So I'll leave you with this final thought. We all have these mental ruts. It's just how our brains work. The question is, now that you know they're there, what are you going to do to break out of them? That's the real challenge Heuer's work leaves us with.